Happy Camper Radio starts in 3, 2, 1. It is so good to be back with you once again. Hello, everybody. I'm Skip. I am a happy camper, and this is the Happy Camper Radio Show, episode 106. And we've got a great topic of discussion today. I think one that you're going to enjoy and one that's really appropriate for this time of the year. It's going to be all about cooking and grilling today. The temperatures have been absolutely wonderful here in the Southeast all week long, and right about now, folks are beginning to make their camping plans for the summer. Kids are going to be out on summer break real soon. In fact, the campgrounds are very active this time of the year on the weekends. But during the summer months, hey, they're going to be in full swing. I certainly wouldn't mind owning a campground and being out there every day with people who have a love for nature just like I do and enjoy this wonderful recreational activity that we talk about each and every week here on the show. Hey, I want to take a couple moments to say hello to our friend Tim Raley, who dropped by the studio last week. If you remember listening to him in episode 105, young fella had an absolutely wonderful time while he was here. He's somewhere out in the world today doing his primitive camping thing and very excited about it. And, it really doesn't matter what type of camping you do, whether you sleep under the stars, in a tent, in an RV, in a motorhome, it really doesn't matter, because it is one thing that we all share in common, and that's being around other campers and taking in the excitement and all the energy and everything that it has to offer. Hey, I want to go over to our shout-out window now. We do have a few campers that checked in with us this week on social media. To start with, let's say hello to the fine folks at Camptown Outfitters in Claiborne, Texas, to Steve and Connie Vickery of Cumming, Georgia, Steve Swofford, Zachary Gilbert of Brooklet, Georgia. They all like us on Facebook. Let's say hello to Derek Curry, Chelsea and Nate Day of San Diego, California, Stacy Iverson Huck, Jeffrey Lemon of Elkhart, Indiana, and finally to the folks at American Family RV in Chesapeake, Virginia. Thank you all so very much for joining us and being a part of this great, happy Camper Radio family. Glad to have you on board. Hey, something I want to share with you. Later on this summer, I am planning an extended weekend camping trip at Georgia's Stone Mountain Park. You hear me talk about that every now and then. It's a wonderful camping destination and really is not too far from home. And I enjoy camping over there. In fact, we did our show from there last summer when my brother and my brother-in-law came into town, and we had an absolutely wonderful time. I haven't decided exactly when this summer I'm going to go on over there, but when I do and when I make my reservations and make my plans, I'm going to be sure to share it with each and every one of you. Because for those of you especially who live in and around the metro Atlanta area, if you would like to join me over there at the park while I am camping, I'm going to have a wonderful time. I'm going to have a great time cooking. I'm going to have a great time just walking around meeting folks, taking in the fantastic laser and light show that operates each and every night during the summer months. And, of course, I'm going to be doing my radio show from over there. And I would love to have you along. So more information coming up on that just in the next couple weeks as soon as I pin down a date and share it with you. If you happen to be passing through Georgia around that time of year and you want to stop by and camp out at the park right along with the rest of us, feel free to do so. So be listening for some details on that in just a couple weeks. Hey, today, like I say, we're going to be talking about cooking and grilling. Nothing beats the aroma of food that floats through any camp environment. And I don't care where you are. I don't care what part of the country you're in or where you're temporarily calling home. If you ever walk around a public campground, and this is one of the things that I do, I brag a lot about laying it around and getting lazy at camp and just hanging out there and sitting around the campfire. But in actuality, there are times when I will walk around the campgrounds and just meet people and say hello and just get acquainted with folks. And some of the nicest people, like I say, you are going to meet at a public or a private campground. But when I am taking my ventures, when I am walking the trails and seeing what other people have in the line of camping equipment and getting some ideas, because I don't have all the answers. I'm just an ordinary camper like each and every one of you. I just happen to have a weekly radio show and love talking about the subject matter. But when I am walking through a campground, no matter what time of the day it is, you can always pick up on that great smell of food that's floating through the campground. Now, today, I'm not going to be talking about great recipes, and I'll tell you why. First of all, you can find them online, just about anywhere you look. Just put campground menus inside your Google search engine, and a lot of information will come up. I have a few recipes under my belt, not much of anything, because I just cook the traditional campground food anytime I'm there. I really don't have any experience in the area. I'm not a master chef. Now, while I enjoy cooking, I can promise you this. Many campers, including several of our listeners here on the show, can no doubt run circles around me in the camp kitchen. But still, I bring a lot of gear with me. Not everybody does that, and that's okay. Some people have compact vehicles. Some people cannot bring a whole lot of camping equipment with them, and I understand that. But still, there are some folks that bring a lot of stuff with them, even though they may not use them. You'll be surprised at the number of people that will deck out their camp kitchen just as quickly as they will their tent and any of the other gear that they have around their campground. And it's just really amazing. I see a lot of folks at these public and private campgrounds that make cooking part of the camping environment. It is just a part of camping as it is being there for 3 or 4 days or a week or just even camping out in the tent. They take it very, very seriously. Like I said, there are many good recipes that you can find online, and I have no doubt in my mind that many of the families that go to public and private campgrounds, regardless of how often they camp each and every year, have recipes that they bring with them, recipes that go back for many, many generations. I know we have quite a few in our family. I was just thrilled half out of my mind several years ago when my brother brought down to me my grandmother's secret recipe for molasses cookies. Granted, not campground food, maybe a campground treat. But I was just, her cookies growing up were just totally off the charts. And a lot of folks have recipes, just entrees that they cook at the campground that they got to take it with them. It's got to be there. It's got to be part of the camping experience, and I understand that. But I can experience a lot of that just by walking through the campground. Any time of the day, somebody always has the grill fired up or they're cooking on their camp stove or doing whatever. Now, again, the equipment that I normally bring to a campground, I had for a number of years a 3-burner Coleman stove that ran off of Coleman fuel and unleaded gasoline. And you'd be surprised, there's a lot of equipment today that's running off unleaded gas. But you've got to make sure it is a dual fuel appliance. In other words, you cannot put unleaded gasoline in an appliance that is designed to run strictly off of camp fuel. So be mindful of that if you're ever picking up any used gear from time to time. If you happen to be going to a flea market and you come across an old Coleman stove or any type of camp stove that requires that you use Coleman fuel, or otherwise known as camp fuel, that you're not going to put unleaded gasoline in there. It's very popular today, and it's a very inexpensive way to heat your food. In fact, the price of a gallon of Coleman fuel today is just off the charts. And I'm just not referring to the name brand, but I mean just even the off-name brands. I'm looking at those too anytime I go in the store, and wow, they have really jumped up in price. So it can be a little more inexpensive for you to use unleaded gasoline, but you want to make sure that you do that safely. The equipment that I use right now just to heat my food, and I talked about this on the show quite a bit, I have a couple of butane stoves. I am in love with those. They are great. They are so compact. The only problem is buying those butane canisters, which looks like a large hairspray can. You really can't buy them just anywhere. I have been into a number of hardware stores. I've been into a couple of the big department stores and didn't see them because I'm always hanging around down the camping aisle. And you've got to go sometimes to a store that specializes in camping equipment to find those. We have a sporting goods store maybe about 4 or 5 miles up the road from here. And anytime I go in there, I will always buy 5 or 6 canisters of butane and store them in my camping supply box. I have quite a bit of supply down there right now, and I don't ever think I'm going to have enough because when I go to camp, I have no idea how much cooking I'm going to do. On average, I will get maybe 3 to 4 good meals per canister of butane. And anytime that I'm done using the butane canister, I always make sure that I set it aside, bring it on home, and put it out with the recycles each and every week. So there's some things you don't want to throw in the dumpster. You want to be conservative as much as you possibly can, and help the environment. So things that you would normally set out to recycle, definitely go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you're going to throw it in a dumpster somewhere, and it's going to wind up in a landfill, and it's going to take decades in order for it to just to break down to nothing. So definitely, if you can recycle, go ahead and do that. One of the things that I have not done, and I am crazy about my patio grill. Let me talk about that for a moment. I do have one of these big barrel type charcoal grills on my patio, and I've had it since I've lived here. Don't use it all that much, but when I do, the taste of charcoal cooked food is fantastic. Now that I have a really good pull-along trailer that I can hook up to the back of my truck, that I normally would haul firewood and a few other things in there, and then plus I've got all that bed space in the back of my truck, I can now wheel that patio grill onto the back of that pull-along trailer and take it to any campground that I'm going to be camping at. And really start charcoal grilling at the campsite. There's nothing beats the taste of good cooked food on the grill. Now, how much charcoal and propane you're going to need is really going to depend upon a number of factors. I have always encouraged people, do your shopping before you get there. And I'm not talking just your food, but anything you need in the line of supplies, because if you end up buying it out on the road, chances are you're going to pay a lot more money than you would have if you had purchased it all back home. And that includes your propane fuel, your charcoal, your lighter fluid, and any other item that you may need at the campsite. Granted, there are some camping destinations that do have convenience stores on site. And they're good because, hey, there's always the probability you're going to run out of something. Even though you had the very best of intentions, when you get to your campsite, you're going to find out, wow, I forgot to buy this. I forgot to take this off the shelf and put it in the camping supply box. And you're going to need that very something, whatever it may be, once you get to the campground. So, I'm not trying to knock the idea of, don't spend your money while you're out on the road. Definitely you want to help those businesses out just like, you help the campground out when you go there camping. You're paying for a site that you're going to be camping at, whether it be 1 or 2 days, a week, or even a month, depending upon how much camping you plan on doing. All right, but I always like to go prepared and have as much of the materials, the items, everything that I need, the food, so I really don't have to venture out. And I can take in every single minute of my vacation time or the time that I have set aside for camping and enjoy it right there at the campground. You know, depending upon how much food you plan on cooking will determine how much charcoal you're going to need. I think we all have a pretty good idea just how much fuel that we are going to be required to bring to the campsite. If you plan on cooking burgers every single night while you're there, naturally you're going to need a lot of charcoal. The propane tanks, I have seen folks show up with maybe 2 or 3 of those, sometimes 4 or 5, depending upon how much cooking they plan on doing. Now, some people may say, wow, a 20-pound propane tank, you're bringing 5 of them? Well, there's a serious camp chef right there, somebody who really takes in what they do and really enjoys it. Another thing you're going to have to consider also is how many people you're going to be cooking for. You're going to find out that in some group settings where you have a group of campers showing up at a campground, there may be a designated camp chef. And not surprising, some of these folks are self-appointed. There are some people that really live for cooking and grilling all the time. And they have no problem being the person to go to, the go-to guy at the camp kitchen. And they cook up some of the best meals that you could ever imagine. You hear me talk from time to time about my annual trip in Hiawassee, Georgia. I've been going up there way over 20 years. And each and every year, sometimes we'd have 20 people show up. Sometimes we would have 50. And sadly, I mean, that's died off quite a bit now because a few years ago, the founder of the campsite up there, Jimmy Atkinson, we called him Mom. He was the camp chef. He was the sole purpose of us going camping, and everybody focused on him. Everybody loved him. When he sent out the invitation, when he decided this was going to be the day, and it was generally the weekend following Veterans Day that we would go up there, and we still do, incidentally. But everybody went up there because we knew Jimmy had it together. He cooked some things ahead of time. Some food was prepared at home, but most of it, a great portion of it, was prepared there at camp. And his trailer was loaded with stuff. He had an oven that he brought up there. It was pre-fitted with a propane tank that was attached, and he had burners on a stove. I think he got this out of an RV somewhere, if I remember correctly. But he had that. He had all of his cooking stoves. He had just anything anybody needed. Saturday steak night was absolutely off the charts. I'm going to have to pull out a couple old photographs of what steak night used to be like up in Hiawassee at the campground. And this was all, the steaks were cooked on the ground. We had something already set up so we could lay the charcoal out. We had a concrete base and got the charcoals lit. I think the screens were set up on 2 concrete blocks, and he cooked maybe 30 steaks at the same time. But it was just an absolute wonderful sight to see. And you knew when you were going to Hiawassee to go camping, you were not going to come away hungry. Usually we had the breakfast taken care of on Saturday. Steak night was Saturday night. And we had breakfast Sunday morning before we broke camp. Oh, and also Friday. We got there usually Friday during the day. And Friday night we usually had chili, or we had some good meal. But anything in between that, you were on your own. But you really didn't have to bring any food with you because everything that you were going to eat while you were there was going to be wholesome. It was going to fill you up. Those were the days. We try to go up there each and every year right around that same time. We don't have the large crowds like we used to, but it's a wonderful camping destination, and if anything, we have a lot of good memories of times gone by. The typical camp favorites when you go camping, these are mine, of course: hot dogs, hamburgers, and barbecue ribs. I'm not really keen on cooking barbecue ribs. Hot dogs and hamburgers, I cook them all the time. I can't say everybody in my camping party will eat them because there are times when I have been accused of burning the food. Some people call it well done. But hey, it works for me. And I can cook hot dogs and hamburgers on the grill here at home just like I can at the campground. But one of the things I have not done is brought my big grill out to a camping destination, and I may start doing that since I bought that really neat pull-along trailer. You know, the sky's the limit when it comes to preparing a great meal at breakfast, lunch, dinner, or really any time. You know, whatever you want to do, you can do it. It's a serious nature of camping. Food preparation, yes. Many campers are really serious about this. And like I said at the beginning of the show, some people will go as far as to deck their camping kitchen out. I have seen camping kitchens that are set up on stands that take maybe 2 people to set them up. They're usually built at home in a garage, and they got all the neat little shelves in there, and they've got all the utensils and everything that, you know, will seem to work for them. For me, I just got one of them big old Tupperware containers with a lid on it. Actually, I have 2 strictly designated for the kitchen. One contains the utensils and the pots and pans. They never leave that box. Over the years, the ones I have replaced in my home kitchen have gone out into my camping supply box, and that's where they stay. They are used anytime I go camping. The other box will simply contain everything I need for the camp kitchen, and usually I have some folding tables that I bring, and anything that I need prior to cooking a meal I bring out and put up on top of the table. So, you know, it's just one of those things for me, but there are some folks that really go out of their way. Do you know there are people who actually bring these large grills? I'm talking the supermodels that are attached to the ball hitch of a car or a truck, and they tow them in. I have seen those before. Now, that is somebody who is real serious about camping and grilling and cooking and making large portions for everybody in their party. Yes, there are group campers, and a lot of times one person is going to take on that responsibility, and they love every single minute of it. Now, there are some folks, too, that bring tabletop grills. Have you ever seen any of those? Years ago, they used to call them hibachi grills. I don't know if they still make them or not, but there are some tabletop grills where you can actually set them up on top of a concrete picnic table at a campsite, and you can grill your food that way. They only cost a few bucks. You can get them at just about any grocery store or department store, and you don't really have to bring that much charcoal, depending, again, how much grilling you plan on doing. Now, most campsites are going to have a grill that is permanently attached to that site. Have you seen them before? I've used them. I've used them in the past, but I really try to stay away from them if I can. And no offense to the campsites or the campgrounds and the campground owners. You know, hey, I thank you so very much for making them available to us. But for myself personally, and maybe you feel the same way about this, all right, in order to use one of those campsite grills that are permanently attached to the campsite, they're cemented in the ground, and you know what they're for, all right, they do prepare great food. I will say that. But here's the thing. You don't know what was cooked on it before, and it's going to require some time on your part to thoroughly clean that grill to make sure it is safe to use. There's no contaminants, because, again, you are putting consumable products. You're cooking consumable products on there. You got to keep in mind also, too, that they are constantly exposed to the elements of nature. You're going to have limbs and tree branches and sticks and all kinds of stuff flying on top of those. You're going to have to clean those out. And you never know when a bird flying overhead is going to take perfect aim, and you're going to have to clean that too. They're going to require extensive cleaning on your part prior to you using them. And if you do decide that you're going to use one of those grills at the campsite, be prepared to bring with you a wire brush and some cleaning products, because you're going to need those to clean the grate. Same holds true for those grills that are attached to the campfire ring. Some people do like cooking over an open flame. Nothing wrong with that either. But again, many campers like myself prefer to bring our own gear. One of the things that I do want to point out here too, regardless if you're grilling on over charcoal or you're using a low-pressure gas grill, safety must be taken into consideration each and every time. Grilling is typically done in a relaxed and casual environment, whether you're at a public or private campground or even at home on your own patio. So it's very, very easy to keep safety on the back burner, and you can't do that. Don't take safety for granted under any circumstances. There are carbon monoxide concerns. CO2 gas is odorless and it's colorless, and the fumes can be fatal in closed areas. Regardless if you're on your back patio or you're camping in a tent, an RV, or other closed areas, it's important for you to keep your grill as far away from those closed areas as possible, so you don't have carbon monoxide fumes coming into your tent or into your RV or other closed areas that you may be close to. Another thing, never use gasoline to ignite charcoals. It's very, very dangerous, and it can explode. Also, use lighter fluid to light your charcoals. Have you ever seen these bags that you just set the bag on fire and the charcoals are all preheated or pre-treated with some sort of accelerant? That's the safest way. But if you're going to use lighter fluid, make sure you cap the bottle immediately and move the bottle away from the grills that are already lit, so you don't create a fire hazard and create a safety hazard for you and anybody else around you. Adding additional fuel once the charcoals are lit is extremely dangerous. I usually go ahead and coat my coals with the amount of lighter fluid that I think is going to be needed to do it in a one-shot deal. So I don't have to come back after the flames die down and I start seeing little bits of white coals and say, wait a minute, I didn't put enough lighter fluid on there. And then you have to put more fluid on there, and then you're going to have a problem with flames, and and that becomes very, very dangerous. So, if you know how much lighter fluid is going to be required for the amount of coals that you put on that grill, just put that amount on, light your grill, and go ahead and let the coals do their magic. Okay, you never want to store grills indoors with coals you have just burned. That should be a given right there. And keep this in mind, too, that charcoal will produce carbon dioxide fumes until they are fully extinguished. Most people will just go ahead and set the grill aside and let it die out, and by the next morning, all you do have is cool ash. That's okay. The safest things to do is after you're done eating and after you decided you're not going to be cooking anymore, go ahead and extinguish those coals. And this way, you're not going to have a problem with the CO2 gas. But, you follow the safety measures as closely as you possibly can, and you won't have any problems. Let me talk about grilling safely around children. This is important, too. You want to keep children away from the grill, as far away from the grill as you possibly can. Educate your kids that this is very dangerous, that these grills do get very hot. Keep away from warm coals once you dump them out. This is also a big issue, too, because, a lot of kids, when they're running around the camp, a lot of them are barefoot. And sometimes I walk around camp barefoot, too. You don't want to be stepping on any hot coals. They can cause some very severe burns. If you're using propane gas, they also pose certain risk. Immediately check for leaks when you turn on your regulator. If you find there is the slightest leak whatsoever, turn off the tank immediately and do not operate the grill until your appliance is fixed. Make sure the hoses are in good working order. Check for holes, cracks, leaks. Inspect all connectors. You can't go wrong, folks, when it comes to camping, and it comes to cooking, and it comes to grilling. Just do it safely, and you'll have yourself an absolutely wonderful camping experience. It's time now for our featured campground of the week here on the Happy Camper Radio Show. In just a few short days, this campground is going to be open for the season. And one of the things about recreation.gov campgrounds, I love the sites that offer lots and lots of photographs, because it makes me decide more quickly which campground I am going to visit. And I found one in the state of Michigan. It opens this coming Thursday, May 14th, 2015. It's Camp 7 Lake Campground. And it's a wonderful camping destination. Now, you wonder why they call it Camp 7 Lake Campground. Well, it sits right on the 60-acre Camp 7 Lake. Makes sense, doesn't it? It's a beautiful location and a beautiful setting for many activities, including camping, boating, fishing, you name it. Do you like campgrounds that offer lots and lots of shade? Do you know most of the campgrounds at Camp 7 Lake are going to be shaded? They even have a few that are down by the lake. I like sleeping by the lake. I like setting up camp by the lake. And they do have some of those sites available, and there are a few of them, really. They're on a first-come, first-served basis. But you got to take a look at this, folks. It is a great place for boating. They've got anglers who take on the perfect spot on the lake. They can find smallmouth bass, bluegills, and perch. Then they make up the most popular catches right there on the lake. Check out their activities and amenities that they have on their website: an accessible vault toilet, boat ramp, campfire rings, fishing pier, parking area, picnic tables, swimming tables. A lot of it is there for you to take a look at and take advantage of while you are camping at Camp 7 Lake. A couple things to know before you go. Please call the campground if you're arriving more than 24 hours late for reservations. Their phone number is right there on the website. Also remember to don't move firewood. Purchase your firewood locally. For more information on don'tmovefirewood.org, go to our website, happycamperradio.com. You'll find it in the link section under Skip's Corner. Great camping destination to consider in the state of Michigan. If you're passing on through, consider Camp 7 Lake Campground. It is our featured campground of the week here on the Happy Camper Radio Show. And if you have a campground that you would like for us to feature on the program, by all means, get in touch with me, Skip, S-K-I-P, at happycamperradio.com. And don't forget to include a link to the campground website when you send your email in to me. That's about all the time I have, folks. I'm ready to get back to what I was doing before I started the show, and that was assessing all of my camping gear in the garage and thinking about the next camping trip that I have upcoming here, hopefully in the next few weeks. I just hope the weather continues to hold on the way it is right now. Hey, don't forget, you can catch us online anytime at www.happycamperradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Camp Talker, add us to Circles on Google+. And now subscribe to us on YouTube. The Happy Camper Radio Show is a presentation of Skip Huber Productions. I'm Skip. I am a happy camper. And no question about it, my friends, we are going to make a happy camper out of you. Catch you next week. This is Happy Camper Radio.